Hey, what's going on YouTube? Good to be here today. Very first Ball Boy Talk on YouTube. Super excited. We're going to be simultaneously recording the podcast, simultaneous recording YouTube. So we're going to see how this goes. I'm super excited. So without any further ado, we're going to start. Welcome into Ball Boy Talk, episode 18. Super excited to be with you today. Today we're going to be talking about some news from this last week. We're going to be talking about the 2021 Hall of Fame results, and we're also going to be talking about the Kansas City Royals, Los Angeles Angels, and the Arizona Diamondbacks yearly reviews. If you listen back through this past 17 episodes, you'll be able to see or hear about the yearly reviews for the other teams so far that we've covered. So we're going to jump in to some news to start us out. So we're going to start with, I like to start with the league news, kind of see what was happening around the league. So there's been some ongoing talks between the MLB and the MLBPA about when the season's starting, what it's going to look like, what rule changes we're going to have. The biggest things on the table right now, the MLB owners want the universal DH, or no, they want expanded playoffs in exchange for the universal DH. That's the biggest hiccup. The PA does not want to budge on this because they feel it will give them less leverage going into CBA negotiations. They don't want to budge on start date. They don't want to budge on anything, and rightfully so. They had to take prorated salaries. They want a full season. The PA saying, hey, we've seen the NBA, the NFL, NHL, they're all playing. Colleges are playing. Why can't we play? Just sit back, let us play. We got this. We handled it last year. We got through when it was worse, before the vaccines rolling out. The biggest thing for the owners is that they want to be able to have fans at the ballparks. Commissioner Robert Manfred has said for teams to prepare for fans to social distance with masks, but vaccines will not be required to attend baseball games, which is awesome, which is what we want to see. So yeah, just a lot of back and forth here. And the MLB also wants, the expanded playoff. They want the implementation of a pitch clock in spring training, a trial run during spring training with the electronic strike zone, among other elements. If you go to the link that's going to be in the podcast or on YouTube, you'll be able to see that the link to all these posts that I'm going to be using today for the podcast. And so Steven Adams and TJ Zenka from MLB Trade Rumors both did an excellent recap of the issue. And so yeah, it's one of the saddest things that happened over this last week that you probably already heard about. But I still haven't gotten over. Hammer and Hank Aaron passed away. This hurt. This was big. Hank Aaron's a legend on and off the field. I mean, he's the best to ever do it next to Babe Ruth. He handled so much adversity. He was, he got death threats to his family, threats on his life. As he played throughout the 50s, 60s, and into the 70s. But he was just grace. He's just graceful. So again, condolences from the Ball Boy blog, from myself to Hank Aaron's family, Braves Nation, and all fans nationwide, as this was a big blow and another legend taken from us in the last 13 months. Let's see. Trades. Trades are next on the list. The Pirates have now acquired 14 prospects between the Josh Bell, Joe Musgrove, and now the newest trade of Jameson Taillon to the Yankees. Yankees are getting an excellent pitcher in Taillon. Big fan of Taillon. I think this was a great move. He has a couple years left to control. The Yankees didn't give up too much. So really good trade for both sides. Really fair. The Pirates are in the last stage of the rebuild. All they have left is to trade Adam Frazier, which is any day now. Let's see, the Yankees and the Red Sox. Speaking of the Yankees, to clear some cap, they dumped the salary of reliever Adam Ottavino onto the Red Sox. First trade between the two clubs in 7 years. The Yankees got back minor league pitcher Frank German for cash, um, and a player to be named later. Strictly salary dump as Ottavino was owed 8.15 million against a luxury tax. So this now brings him under and gives him some wiggle room, possibly even bring back Brett Gardner on a cheap contract. For some reason, the Yankees love Brett Gardner with their outfield injuries between Stanton and Judge year after year. It makes complete sense as to why they do it. Um, let's see, a couple smaller moves. The Reds acquired left-handed pitcher Kyle Perez from the Astros in exchange for catcher Luke Berryhill. And the Reds also acquired right-handed pitcher Hector Perez from the Blue Jays for a player to be named later or cash. And the move for the Blue Jays side was to make room for the George Springer signing. Let's see, some rumors on the trade mill are rumor mill, about trades. Now, the Mets and Blue Jays have spoken to the Cubs on third baseman Chris Bryant. I personally do not think that Chris Bryant's going anywhere, and here's why. I don't think he's going anywhere because the Cubs still have their core. Yeah, they gave up. They got Yu Darvish off the books, but that was an expensive contract, and they capitalized on his value. They have a new front office staff in place. They still have Rizzo, Bryant, Baez. They signed outfielder Jock Peterson to a contract, and so this is just a really they're still competing. Much like the Indians, people are completely writing them off after trading Carlos Carrasco and Francisco Lindor, but it's simply just not the case. Like, these teams are still competitive. They can still compete in the division. Some bounce back years from Rizzo, Baez, and Bryant. And they still have Wilson Contreras, and they still have a decent rotation now after signing Trevor Williams. The Cubs might surprise a lot of people this year. And then just to wrap this up, free agent starting pitcher Jake Arrieta threw for teams on 129. The Twins were in attendance. Right-handed reliever David Robertson is planning on holding a showcase in early February. This will be his first on-mound work since Tommy John surgery in August of 2019. And lastly, in a piece by Outfield Fly Rule, which is to cover the Braves. Personally, I this one's completely biased, but Ethan Workinger, he's the little brother of one of my longtime friends, good kid. Workingers are 6'3", 185 pounds, and looks to have plenty of room on his frame to add muscle. He had 11 extra base hits in 90 plate appearances in his 19-game run with San Diego County Community College with 2 stolen bases. Scouts say he has a classic slugger swing. Will likely add power as he matures. He's likely to start the season in extended spring training, work into Augusta before the season ends. But Braves fans, I'm a big fan of Workinger. Yes, I have some personal bias for Workinger, but again, I'm a big fan. I think the kid has a bright future. I think he's ready to contribute. I think he'll probably make it to Double A by the end of the year. I mean, kid's talented, great glove work, big frame, just solid player, high drive. He's humble. He's ready to work. He's ready to get in there. And then another on the prospect buzz, Tigers manager AJ Hinch said he could give regular playing time to second baseman Isaac Paredes after he showed excellent in his rookie season. So that wraps us up for trade rumors, league news for this episode. So we're gonna jump over to the free agent stuff. So if you're listening to the podcast or if you're just watching YouTube, if you're listening to the podcast, I just did an ad for Raise Energy, and yes, I went to go get glasses because this ring light is brutal. But I just did an ad for Raise Energy over on the podcast, Ball Boy Talk. You can find it on Anchor, Spotify, Google Podcasts, 6 other platforms as well. But Raise Energy right here, love this stuff. Love it, love it, love it. Can't say enough good things about it. You'll see me sipping on it just to clear my throat. So, cheers. Let's get into some free agents. We're going to get into some free agent signings now. Kind of what the free agent landscape looked like this last week. And boy, was it a busy, busy week. But before I get into that, I forgot to mention Raise Energy. I am doing a giveaway of a sample pack of Raise Energy, as well as decal and some baseball cards. So please head over to Facebook Just search Ballboy Blog on the one that pops up. Click follow, you'll be entered in. Entries go until the 8th. So make sure to check that. And I don't love these because of the light. You can't see my eyes, so I feel like that's just weird. So we're going to ditch those. So this last year we saw, or last week we saw, um, and sorry, if you're listening to the podcast, this is also being recorded for YouTube simultaneously. I was wearing glasses, but I didn't like how they looked with the light, just to give context. So 5 years, 115 million, 20 million in 2021, 23.87 mil for the next 4 seasons in the deal that JT Realmuto signed with the Phillies to stay with the club. No opt-outs, no options, nothing. Just straight 5 years. Great signing for the Phillies. They needed to bring back Realmuto, not only for the pitchers, but for the offense. He has an above-average bat for a catcher. Elite glove work, elite work behind the plate. They needed him next to Bryce Harper. It was looking for a while there like the Phillies weren't going to make any moves or sign anyone, but they ended up signing JTR, followed up with Didi Gregorius signing. So yeah, and then the Blue Jays, Nationals, and Braves were also in on Realmuto, kind of just circling if he wasn't going to end up signing with the Phillies, but it had been floated for about a week, almost two, that they had an offer out, and it was just a matter of time before they hammered out the last little bit of details. Let's see, and the shortstop market got going on the evening of 126, and boy, was Twitter blowing up when this happened. It was great. Marcus Semien, 1 year, 18 mil, Blue Jays. He now enters an infield mix with Bo Bichette, Kevin Biggio, Vlad Jr. It's apparent that he's going to slot in at second base. He's not going to take over shortstop. So it'll be really interesting to see what the Blue Jays do with third base with Vlad Jr. and Kevin Biggio this season. And then shortstop Freddie Galvis signed a 1-year deal with the Orioles. After that, shortstop Anderson Simmons signed a 1-year deal with the Twins, which gives manager Rocco Baldelli of the Twins some extra roster flexibility. Polanco's expected to move to second base with Luis Arias becoming more of an infield utility man, with Donaldson still at third base, and Sano moving and being at first base. So the Twins have a nice looking infield with a nice looking order now with Simmons in the mix. The Giants signed infielder Tommy La Stella to a 3-year deal. This was the richest deal that the Giants had given out in a couple years, so it was great to see them sign La Stella. He did want to return to the Oakland A's, though. However, the Oakland A's did not reach out and offer him a contract. But the A's did reach out to Marcus Semien and offer him a deal. This deal was a $12.5 million guarantee with $10 million deferred over the next 10 years. So we're seeing this a lot more. Like most of Max Scherzer's contract, like more than about half of it, or maybe a third, is deferred from 2022 to like 2029. So it's a great way for teams to save money. You'll be seeing a lot more deferred money this season, next season, probably more than ever before. The Cleveland Indians re-signed second baseman Cesar Hernandez to a 1-year, $5 million deal. So great re-signing for the Indians there. The Red Sox also gave out their richest deal since Chai Bloom took over last season. They signed utility man Kike Hernandez to a 2-year, $14 million deal. Then they also ended up signing starting pitcher Garrett Richards to a 1-year, $10 million deal. So it'll be really interesting to kind of see how Richards fits, especially with Chris Hill working his way back. Eduardo Rodriguez expected to be back this season, healthy. We'll kind of monitor his rehab progress. But no, this is a metrics-driven signing. On paper, Richards did not look good. 4.03 ERA, 21.6 strikeout percentage over 51 innings pitched. The strikeout percentage is about league average, slightly above. But he showed in the 99th percentile with his curveball and 97th percentile with his fastball spin rate. So Bloom is a very metrics-driven guy. The front office, very metrics-driven. So it makes a lot of sense why they went after Richards. The Nationals made a couple moves as well. The Nationals re-signed Mr. National Ryan Zimmerman to what we only can assume to be his last contract with the team. With Zimmerman back, he'll platoon Bell against lefties. Zimmerman owns a 311, 390, 527 slash line against left-handed pitching, compared to Bell's 232, 315, 410. If universal DH is agreed upon, we could see Zimmerman get even more time playing at the DH spot. The Nationals also signed left-handed relief pitcher Brad Hand to a one-year, $10.5 million deal. This was kind of a surprising signing. I did not know that Hand was connected to the Nationals. It makes sense to stabilize the back end of that bullpen with Sean Doolittle. So I really like the signing for the Nationals. I love their moves that they've made this offseason, though. Acquiring Josh Bell, signing Kyle Schwarber, signing John Lester, Brad Hand. Like, I have this team already winning the division just off these moves. And I still have Juan Soto, Trey Turner in-house. Like, I love the Nationals. I love the moves they're making. They're fantastic. And then the Padres were able to re-sign their utility man, Jerickson Profar, to a 3-year deal worth $21 million. So it'll be really interesting to see how Profar kind of fits in. The infield's crowded with Hosmer at first, Kim and Cronenworth second, Tatis at shortstop, Machado at third. It is expected that they could slot Cronenworth or Kim into left field, which I think is really interesting. But we'll kind of see how the Padres roster look out. They're going to try to get all these guys as many at-bats as possible, but Profar is a quality utility player. The Marlins added right-handed pitcher Anthony Bass on a 2-year deal with an option for 2023. We thought that Brantley was going to the Blue Jays with his best friend George Springer. That didn't happen. He actually ended up re-signing with the Astros. To the exact same deal, 2-year, $32 million guaranteed, that he signed when he signed with them the first time. So really interesting there, but the Astros needed him back after losing Springer. No movement on Reddick. They desperately needed Brantley to help them keep pace in what's going to be, and again, tough AL West. That's weakening. So really good move there. The Astros they also signed catcher Jason Castro to a 2-year deal worth $7 million guaranteed. And then the Twins signed left-handed pitcher J.A. Happ as well to a one-year, $8 million contract. He'll be an excellent fourth option behind Maeda, Barrios, and Pineda. The Tigers signed catcher Wilson Ramos to a 1-year, $2 million deal. The Cubs signed catcher Austin Romine to a 1-year, $1.5 million guarantee. And then I don't usually talk about minor league signings. Those are saved for the yearly previews. But the Panda, Pablo Sandoval, signed a 1-year, $1 million deal, non-guaranteed deal. So yeah, just hopefully year 15 or 14, he can make a roster, still keep playing. Those are all the signings. I don't want to take up too much time, so feel free, come on over to the blog, check out the Around the Horns for 127 free agents. The link will be in the comments of the podcast. It'll be in the description on YouTube. So please check that out. Should be really easy to find, but you can read all the notes, everything there. We're going to jump into the Hall of Fame results from this last week. All right, back to it. Talking some Hall of Fame. So on the 26th, the Hall of Fame results were announced. Now, I want to talk about the 10 guys that I would have inducted. I would have inducted these 10 players if I had my vote. Barry Bonds would have been on my ballot for sure. The home run king. He did what he did, but he's still a legend. He had Gold Gloves up, so many Gold Gloves. Giant his whole career. He was just so good. He could do whatever he wanted with the bat. He didn't care who you were up against. So many MVPs, most MVPs of anyone in history. Like, you gotta give it to Bonds. Like, we gotta stop. We've seen so much cheating. The cheating has been insane in the MLB. The Astros sign stealing scandal, the Pete Rose implications. The punishments have been so inconsistent over the years. Like the Astros should have had their World Series title stripped. They should have had a harsher punishment. The players should have been punished harsher. Um, they cheated to win a World Series and to get there. Um, there's evidence. You can't deny it, but Manfred let them off easy. Draft picks, a fine. The managers that were implicated, they're back, they're hired again. They didn't even have to serve a full year. They had to serve a pandemic year, which it wasn't fair. It should have been a lifetime ban. Pete Rose has had a lifetime ban for cheating. Why didn't these other guys have a lifetime ban for cheating? You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just so inconsistent. And it's unfortunate to see that inconsistency across the MLB. Um, Pete Rose, he should be in the Hall of Fame. He's not. He probably won't see it in his lifetime, him making it into the Hall of Fame. He's the all-time hit king. He bet to win. He bet on his teams to win. He didn't bet on them to lose. He didn't throw games. He just bet. Now sports betting is legalized. So why not change and adapt with the world? Um, Consistent. Make it consistent, Manfred. That's all I'm saying. Next guy I would have or inducted is Kurt Schilling. By far the best regular season pitcher, possibly the best postseason pitcher of all time. 3 World Series rings, an incredible career, a few Cy Youngs. Like, it's sad that Schilling's been associated with Bonds and Clemens all these years because it's going to hurt his chances. Roger Clemens, the Rocket, my third pick. Um, all-time winner, 7 Cy Youngs, no doubt a Hall of Famer, except the steroid thing. But like I was just saying, we gotta get over it. We got to. Like, it's unfair to these players who had great careers. There's plenty other people doing it, and that'll be my next video on YouTube. But I mean, there's so many players doing it. Why do we punish a few that were great at it when dozens, 30, 40, 50 other players are doing it as well? They just did it better. Scott Rowland would have been my fourth. One of the best defenders all time, true competitor. Billy Wagner, he owns the best K per 9 of any pitcher with at least 900 innings pitched. He would have been my fifth vote. Gary Sheffield, one of the best power hitters we've seen in recent memory. A better player in terms of wins above replacement than Vladimir Guerrero, who's a Hall of Famer. Um, I also would have picked Sammy Sosa, another icon. That's just probably not going to make a Hall of Fame. But we all remember that moment when Sammy hit that home run at Wrigley Field after 9/11, ran around the bases with an American flag in his hand. True legend, true great, another great. It just did it better than the rest. Um, Torrey Hunter, another guy who I would have voted for. One of the best average power defenders that we've seen in recent memory. He 9-time Gold Glover, a true man on and off the diamond, a great teammate. He's held in high regards by his teammates. Andy Pettitte would have been my ninth. Definitely the best postseason pitcher of all time. He's the all-time leader in playoff wins. And he won 5 of 8 World Series he pitched in. So he has 5 rings. He was a great for the Yankees. The biggest blemish against him is he never won a Cy Young. But when you win 5 World Series ring, I think that's better than winning any Cy Young. Jeff Kent would have been my number 11. Just the consistency from 97 to 04 with 100 RBIs in each of those seasons. And he was able to beat out Barry Bonds for an MVP. I mean, come on. I would have inducted Jeff Kent. If I had an 11th vote, and this one was close, but I would have inducted Omar Vizquel, strictly for the glove work. However, recency bias plays too much of a part for the voters, I feel, especially with Kurt Schilling, his tweets, Omar Vizquel with his domestic violence. They need to leave it on the field, what the player did on the field in that context, and that needs to be the context alone for the players getting in or not getting into the Hall of Fame. It's too tied into politics. So after my 10 votes, 0 players were inducted into the Hall of Fame for the first time since 2013. Record 14 blank ballots were sent in. This was insane. 14 blank ballots. Blank ballots are a sure sign of protest against Kurt Schilling, Barry Bond, and Roger Clemens. Manny Ramirez, Sammy Sosa. That's a clear sign of protest against these guys. Um, so yeah, that's kind of where it was. If you guys watched the MLB's broadcast of the Hall of Fame induction ceremony, excuse me, um, it was really cool. The tribute they paid to Hank Aaron, the tributes they paid to the other legends that have passed away. Overall, it was a really good broadcast. There were a couple parts that I didn't agree with, and I kind of muted it, but it is what it is. Um, so now the 2022 ballot is going to have Kurt Schilling, Barry Bonds, Roger Clemens in their 10th and final year on the ballot. Schilling, I sure hope makes it out of everyone. Kurt Schilling needs to make it. I'm not going to be surprised if Barry Bonds and Roger Clemens get snubbed. I'm not. Um, Joining them is going to be A-Rod and David Ortiz. So you can say the ballot is going to be juiced. Clemens, Bonds, Manning, Sosa, Sheffield, A-Rod, Ortiz. All players who have been connected to PEDs. Only ones of that list to actually test for it. Manny Ramirez and A-Rod. The other guys are never actually tested positive for it. And that's one of the biggest arguments in their favor is that they never tested positive. If you never test positive for it, how can you be indicted on it? That's one of the weirdest things that I've never understood. But right after the results were announced, Kurt Schilling said, and rightfully so, I defer to the Veterans Committee and the men whose opinions actually matter, who are in a position to actually judge a player. Schilling also added on Bonds and Clemens. Now somehow he is in the conversation with two men who cheated, and instead of being accountable, they chose to destroy others' lives to protect their lie. Yes, I agree with Schilling. He should be deferred to the Veterans Committee because he is one of the all-time greats, if not a top 3 pitcher of all time, postseason or regular season. Yeah, he had some bad tweets and some social media stuff in recent years, but you gotta look at what the player did on the field while they played. For those 2 decades that Schilling played, that Clemens played, that Bonds played, so many of these players played. What kind of player were they on the field? They were the best. What kind of teammate were they? Manny Ramirez, not so much. But these other guys, they were still good teammates. Yes, but 20 years on the field should be what matters to the voters, but it's not. Too many politics, too much recency bias, and it's awful. It kills me. Um, so just kind of recap where everyone's at right now. Off the ballot now is Aramis Ramirez, LaTroy Hawkins, Barry Zito, AJ Burnett, Michael Kadire, Dan Herron, Nick Swisher, and Shane Victorino. None of them made it to the 5% needed to stay on the ballot. Right over that 5% threshold, Tim Hudson, Bobby Abreu, Torrey Hunter. Right over that 10% threshold, Sammy Sosa at 17%, he went up 3.1. Andy Pettit, he went up 2.4% to 13.7, and Mark Burley at 11. The only player over 20%, 28.2% for Manny Ramirez, no increase. Andrew Jones had a huge jump of 14.5% to 33.9%, so he's in that 30% range now. Jeff Kent, he went up 4.9% to that 32.4 range. Omar Vizquel, he actually went down, and again, recency bias with the whole domestic violence allegations from his estranged ex-wife, as he claims. So he went down 3.5%. Billy Wagner went up 14.7%, now to 46.4%. Todd Helton went up to 44.9%, a 15.7% increase. Gary Sheffield went up 10.1%. Vizquel was actually the only player on the ballot to drop in percentage of votes. Scott Rowland, he went up to 52.9%, up 17.2, which was the biggest and most significant increase of any player on the ballot this year. So he's the only one in that 50% range. So he's gaining a lot of momentum. I think the defense really helps him, and the Gold Gloves, and he's actually one of the only players to have hit against or homered off of each of the Braves' legendary trio of Maddox, Glavine, and Smoltz, which is a pretty big accomplishment. Those guys are all in their own respect, Hall of Famers. Um, Over 60%. Kurt Schilling, 71.1%. He only went up 1.6. Bonds, 1.1% increase to 61.8. Clemens, 0.6% increase to 61.6. Schilling only fell 16 votes shy. He should have made it. Hands down, he should have made it. And what he said was right. He's somehow now being included in the conversation with Bonds and Clemens for cheating. He should have never. He should have made it years ago. Bonds and Clemens need 53 sympathy votes to get in next year. We'll see. We will see what happens this next year. I think they all should make it. But who am I? I'm just a YouTuber, podcaster, blogger guy. That's a big baseball fan. But that's your Hall of Fame results. We're going to power through some yearly reviews, again, of the Royals, Angels, and the Diamondbacks. Now into the yearly reviews. So we're going to get into the yearly reviews now. We're going to start with the Royals. For the yearly reviews, so far we've talked about the Padres, the A's, Marlins, Yankees, Cardinals, White Sox, Cubs, Twins, Reds, Blue Jays, Brewers, Indians, Giants, Phillies, Mariners, Rockies, Nationals, and Mets, as well as the Dodgers, Rays, Astros, and Padres. No, I already said Padres. Braves. So go and check those out. Those are on the main page of the blog. You can just hit yearly reviews. You'll see all 30 teams there. And again, the link for all three of these will be in the description of the podcast and on the YouTube video. So for the yearly reviews, we look at a bunch of different things. We look at the moves that the team made. We look at what moves they made, the impact of those moves, what we loved, what we didn't love, biggest takeaway, and kind of what's next. So we're going to power through these. We're going to try to get through them in about 10, hopefully 15 minutes to wrap this up. So what moves did the Royals make in 2020? They traded right-handed pitcher Trevor Rosenthal to the Padres for center fielder Edward Olivares and a player to be named later. Olivares had 62 at-bats for the team. He had 2 home runs, 7 RBIs, and 292 OBP, so nothing great. But he showed that there's upside for him in the system. The Royals traded right fielder Brett Phillips to the Rays for shortstop Lucius Fox. And he's just an extra addition to the already top 10 ranked Royals farm system. So what do we not love about the Royals? Well, I love that they proved me wrong for their win-loss record. I had them projected to go 20-40, but they finished going 26-34. Now, that was still toward the bottom of the AL. They didn't make the playoffs, but that was still surprising. We loved the last year from Gold Glove, Platinum Glove, left fielder Alex Gordon. Nicky Lopez, he should have took home a Gold Glove, but he didn't at second base. But, again, upside at second base for the Royals defensively. We saw some plus seasons from Whit Merrifield. He had a 325 OBP. I love to point out OBP because I feel like players should be graded on OBP more than batting average because you can't score if you don't get on base. That's just my opinion. Michael Franco had 8 home runs, 38 RBIs, and a 321 OBP. Hunter Dozier, 344 OBP. And, of course, Salvador Perez coming back. Still missed some time due to injury, but 11 home runs, 353 OBP, 1.9 WAR. He showed that he's Salvador Perez. Consistent, tough, just fantastic. And he was a comeback player of the year, of course. On the pitching side, Bradley Singer, he had the team leading whip, 1.17 and 1.1 WAR. Brad Keller, he was actually pretty solid. Not big strikeout numbers, 5.8 K per 9, but a 2.47 ERA over 54.2 innings pitched. So both of them showed to be a pretty good 1-2 option in that rotation. The rest of the team, they weren't great. Greg Holland, Jesse Hahn, Kyle Zimmer all showed well out of the bullpen. Not amazing, but they played almost 500 baseball, which you kind of shoot for if you're a rebuilding team. And the Royals are funny. They think they're a lot closer to competing than they actually are. Just kind of look at their signings from this last year. But anyways, so what do we not love about the Royals in 2020? Danny Duffy had another rough year as the ace of the club. Ace. Um, he had a 4.4 record, over 56.1 innings pitched, a 4.95 ERA, 133 WHIP. Not great. The pitching staff as a whole was also pretty bad. 4.30 ERA, 1.38 WHIP. That's not going to help your offense, especially an offense that has a 244, 305 OBP, 402 slugging, and 711 OBP or OPS. And OPS is really interesting to look at as a whole. It's one of the stats I use to look at as a whole team. The OPS, um, that your on base plus slugging percentage. An average player is about 7 out of 700. But as a team, if you're at a 711 OPS, ugh, you're just not getting on base, you're not getting runners in, and you're just not performing. Let's see, biggest takeaway for the Royals in 2020. Um, you know, is that they only got on base 30% of the time. League average is about 34, so they're well below that clip, and they still won 26 games with awful pitching. I don't think that'll be the case in 2022, or one, I mean, just because of how much improved the White Sox are, the Indians are improved. At the top of that division, the Twins, improved. And I think the Royals are looking at another fourth, fifth place finish. Well, they have the Tigers still, so they'll be battling for fourth place with the Tigers. Um, that was my biggest takeaway. What's next? The contracts of Jorge Soler, Salvador Perez, and Danny Duffy are up after the season. Um, Depending on how the plan goes, they've made a lot of signings this winter. But depending on how everything goes, I wouldn't be surprised to see them blow it up, get more prospects up, again let them play, and to just kind of trade these guys for value and get that farm system from top 10 to top 5. Um, but yeah, that's the Royals. Moving over to the Angels. Um, what did we love? What moves did they make? They traded catcher Jason Castro to the Padres for right-handed pitcher Gerardo Reyes. Reyes didn't play for the club in 2020. They traded left fielder Brian Goodwin to the Reds for a player to be named later, and Packy Naughton, another depth move. Padres traded the Angels traded second baseman Tommy La Stella to the A's for Franklin Barreto. I questioned this move at first because I like Barreto as a prospect for the A's, and the La Stella was a rental piece for a competitive A's team, and smart for the Angels to do since they weren't winning the division. I think the move is going to come back to haunt them because they weren't able to re-sign La Stella, and they weren't. And Brito, he didn't show well. The A's have a great system in place, and they can tell when a player is not going to be it, and maybe they're just ahead on Barreto. He only had 2 hits, 15 strikeouts, and a 161 OBP in his 27 at-bats. However, he does have a lot of upside, and we should see him in an opportunity in an everyday role in 2021 with the Angels. What we loved about 2020 in the Angels, Mike Trout becoming a dad. He got that dad strength, hit 17 home runs, 46 RBIs, a 281 batting average, 390 OBP, and a 603 slugging for a 993 OPS. Insane numbers. We love what we saw from first-year player Anthony Rendon, 9 home runs, 31 RBIs, 38 walks to 31 Ks for 418 OBP, 497 slugging. Again, just big numbers from Rendon. Really give you good hope for what this team is going to do next season. David Fletcher, 319 batting average, 376 OBP. Those 3 guys really solid, and they've added pieces. They with Iglesias, shortstop, bullpen. I think the Angels are going to turn a lot more heads in 2021. With the AL West as weak as it looks, and the future of the AL West, I think the Angels have a chance to strike. I actually had them as a World Series favorite last season, and again, they're still a top 10 team to me. Pitching wise, We saw a great season from Bundy, 3.29 ERA, 72 strikeouts. Mike Mayers, great out of the pen, 30 innings pitched with a 12.9 K per nine, 43 strikeouts and a um, 2.10 ERA, 0.9 WHIP. What did we not love? Well, we didn't love the offense as a whole outside of Mike Trout, Rendon, and Fletcher. 248 OBP, 332 or 248 batting average, 332 OBP, 430 slugging, 763 OPS. So they were above average. They were very average, just very average. Those numbers are very just average. Um, can't win a lot of games. They now don't have Anderson Simmons, but they replaced him with Iglesias. So tomato tomato. Um, Hopefully we see more Joe Adele, Franklin Barreto, Jared Walsh. Um, I think Walsh is primed for a massive breakout in 2021. He played 32 games, hit 9 home runs, had an OBP of 324, batting average of 293, 646 slugging. I can't wait to see more of Walsh at first base. Um, of course, if you're an Angels fan, you don't love what's happening with Shohei Ohtani. He just doesn't look like he's gonna pitch. Every time he does, he gets hurt or he's not that great. I'm hoping for a move to right field for Ohtani for his long-term future and for his long-term health and success in the MLB. He's wildly talented with the bat, and hopefully they give him a chance in the outfield and right field, not just as a pitcher and DH. Get your money's worth. Biggest takeaway is that the offense has a great core. They have a great core offense. Adele, Trout, Fletcher, Iglesias, Rondon, like they have it. They need the pitching. The pitching just hasn't been there, and that's what's held them back. I had this team projected to go 42-18, and they ended up going 26-34. And they were in fourth place in the AL West, behind the Mariners and in front of the Rangers. A large part of that was a 5.09 ERA, which they gave up 5 runs a game as a pitching staff, and you just can't expect your team to be able to keep up with that. Outside of that, the AL West has a lot of opportunity. The Mariners are, the biggest sleeping giant in the AL West. The Astros still have plenty of talent, but they won't be able to pay everyone after 2021. The A's are kind of in flux. We'll see what happens with the A's. The A's are just good. They're always good. They always figure it out, and they're always good. They're always good. But the time is now. If they can add some more pitching, then they're there. What's next for the Angels in 2021? Pujols is in the final year of his deal. It's going to be 41. He posted a minus -0.8 WAR, R-WAR, since 2017. They're going to let him have the roster spot. He's chasing A-Rod for the 4th all-time on the home run list. They're going to use him to be that veteran presence in the locker room, mentor Jared Walsh, and let him give whatever he has left in the tank, because this is surely his last year, which is sad. Lastly, the Arizona Diamondbacks. Moves they made: they traded center fielder Starling Marte to the Miami Marlins for a player to be named later, left-handed pitcher Caleb Smith, and right-handed pitcher Humberto Mejia. Smith had 11 innings pitched, 12-6 K to walk ratio, 2.545 ERA. It's a good move for the Diamondbacks. Smith didn't look bad in 2019. I think he'll be excellent in 2021 in a full season as a number 2 option to Madison Bumgarner. Mejia didn't play, and Mejia didn't play for the team in 2022. The Angels traded left-handed pitcher Robbie Ray to the Blue Jays for Travis Bergen and cash. 6.2 innings pitched out of the pen, 8 K to 8 walks, 1.80 WHIP, 405 ERA. Again, a really small sample size, but I wouldn't be surprised to see him in the bullpen again in 2021. They traded Archie Bradley to the Reds for left fielder Josh Van Meter and outfielder Stuart Fairchild. Van Meter played with the team, 36 at bats, pretty poor slash line, 194, 293, 333. I think there's some potential here. It's hard to grasp what a player is going to be in just 32 at bats. Obviously, they liked him, or they wouldn't have given up Archie Bradley. What did we love? Well, there wasn't much to love. Um, Christian Walker had a 333 OBP, Peralta had a 339 OBP, 61 hits. Cole Calhoun had a 338 OBP, 526 slugging, 16 home runs, 40 RBIs. So Cole Calhoun led the team in every major offensive category. Outside of that, wasn't great. Zach Gallen, he enjoyed decent 2020. He threw 72 innings pitched, 2.75 ERA with a 1.1 WHIP, and opponent's batting average against of 210. So overall, I think the best player, Gallen, after Bumgarner with Smith, I think they have a pretty good 1-2-3 option, but I don't think it's enough to compete with the Dodgers and the Padres in the NL West, or even the Giants. It's a tough division out there. Let's see. What did we not love? Well, I had them predicted to be the 37-23 team, third place finish with a wild card. They finished fifth with a 25-35 record. We know it was the fifth worst finish in the MLB. Marte had a 287 batting average, but he had a 323 OBP, 409 slugging. He was decent. He's kind of coming back down after a pretty good 2018-2019 run. Come back down to earth. However, they won 25 games with their pitching staff giving up a 4.84 or a 143 WHIP, while opponents hit 250 against them. I don't know how they won 25 games still, but they did. Biggest takeaway for me is, you got to get away from the mainstream metrics, batting average, RBIs, home runs. You got to look at OBP, slugging, OPS as a team, and they just weren't there. They couldn't get on base. They couldn't get enough runs. They couldn't get guys in. They probably should have won 20 after playing against the AL and NL West this season. So what's next? They had the 8th best farm system in baseball. They had a wild card berth in 2019. Last place finish in 2020. One can only guess what's next. They haven't made any moves. They got Bumgarner last year. We'll see what happens. I don't have them ranked too high. I actually have them bottom 5 in my power rankings. But that's kind of where they lay. It's kind of where they stand. So we'll see what happens. But we'll see. The NL West is too tough. I think they're in last place finish or 4th place finish because the Rockies are going to be bad. It's going to be rocky. But we'll end up seeing what happens. So with that, that's the end of it. That's the end of the podcast video. Thank you guys for listening. Thanks for tuning in. If you joined on YouTube, make sure you subscribe, click the bell. Hopefully we'll do more videos. If not, go and follow me over on TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. I am doing a giveaway through the 8th of February. You do have to be following on Facebook to be entered. You get additional entries if you follow on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter and TikTok. So I'll be giving away a raised sample pack, some decals, and some other cool and some baseball cards for 100. If we get to 200 before opening day, then we'll be doing a Daniel seasoning giveaway. And then every 100 after that, who knows? Maybe it'll become a thing and we'll have more giveaways. Thanks for listening. Thanks for tuning in. Again, theballboyblog.com, ballboyblog.com. Both the URLs work. Come and join me. Come and spend some time with me. And keep up on all the moves coming to winter. Again, we got power rankings out. Fantasy baseball out on the blog now. We got news every week, power rankings. I have everything scheduled for the next 2 months of content. So stay tuned. It's about to get really good.